Hi guys, so I have another video for you on polyrhythms versus polymeter, and these two terms often will get collapsed, but they're actually different. So we're going to talk about how they're different, and I've got some gifts for you, or one gift for you, which is this polyrhythm MIDI file, right? So maybe you saw it in the thumbnail, but this is a MIDI file with all the ways that you can slice up a measure, all the way up to 32 deviations. Right, and you can always take this if you want it to be slicing up, two measures or slicing up a single beat, right? You could do it this way, right? And then this would be slicing up this many slices per beat, right? So it's pretty straightforward to use. I'll show you more on things you would use it for, but let's start with this polymeter first. The difference between polymeter and polyrhythm is when you have these different slicings of the same time division, and then you slice it up in different numbers and you layer that on top of each other, like 4 slice thing over 3, which would be like this versus this. But what polymeter is it's actually when you have different time signatures, and so that means that the loop length is different, but the beat is the same, right? So I'll just give you an example. So, say we start with this, and this is just 4, standard 4/4. All right, so very straightforward. And you can see the time signature of this clip over here. It says 4/4, so that means there's 4 beats per measure, right? And I just have it just walking down a C minor scale, every beat. Now, if we add in this one that's in 3, this is also walking down, but it's starting from the 3rd and it's walking down to the 1. But this is still once every beat, but there's only 3 beats, and you can see that the time signature on this is 3/4. So when we play these together, what we get is right, and so we can feel like, say, if the overall song is in 4/4, we can feel like kind of like the start point of this 3 is different each time it loops, right? Because it gets through 1 1/3 loops every time this one that's in 4 does. Right, so let's try this 4/5 now, polymeter, right? And this is now in 5, and I have this one walking up, but we'd have this. Right, and all 3 together would sound like this. Right, so that's what polymeter is, and these things don't have to be so even, right? It doesn't have to be where you have, 1 pulse every single beat, right? There's nothing to say that we couldn't have done something like this. Right. Right, it's still polymeter, right? But the loops are sort of staggered in their length, if you want to think about it that way. Now with polyrhythm, it's actually the opposite is true. So I'm going to give you an example of this while I show you around this. And what this is it's actually not just this MIDI file, but I actually threw it on a drum rack, and I did that for 2 reasons. One, if you throw it on a drum rack, this will change from the note names to whatever the drum cell is named. And in this case, I literally went through and I named these drum cells 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 and such for each deviation, or each number of divisions, rather. So if we go, and I'm just going to grab some drum sounds to throw on this, and we'll just construct a couple quick polyrhythms with this. But these are 1/28s. If you haven't seen my video on making 1/28s, definitely do that because they're great. So let's do a 7/4 polyrhythm. Right, so what I would do is I'd drag this hat on the 7. This still says 7, which is nice because it'll help you keep track, but now we've got all these hats, and if I hit play, let me stop this guy, but if I hit play here, all right, let's get a tighter sample. Cool. What I'm going to do is I'm going to, under this 7, I'm going to take this note and I'm going to crank it up so it's a little bit louder on the 1. Right? So we could put like a kick drum on our, let's just make it like a 4/4 kind of kick drum just to illustrate this point. Okay, so we have some kicks here. So now it sounds like this. You can hear kind of the syncopation. All right, let's get a snare in there so that we have kind of a backbeat too. I'm going to put these snares actually in a 5. So we have that, and I'm going to slice out some of these MIDI notes, right? So on this 5, right, so this is when our kick's hitting, so I don't want that. And I'm going to basically take out these 2 and this one. And so our kick's going to hit here, and then we're going to have a snare here, and then a kick here, and then the snare here again, right? And also let's take out the kick drum every other one of those too. Right, so now right, and this is a little bit slow. We could probably speed that up and make it cooler. Right, so that's one example of a polyrhythm. Now, there's a handful of other uses for these files. You can actually build grooves out of these files, and you can create like quintuplet and septuplet swing and all sorts of stuff with them. So let me just really quick show you how this was created in the first place. Right, so if we go to say 8th notes right here, and we make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them, right? Well, and we select all of these guys, you'll see this little handle thing here, right? So we can bring that into, say, our desired length, which maybe is 1 beat, right? You'll notice that 1 sticks out on the end here, right? So we now have 5 splits on 1 beat, right? So if we duplicate that over a few times, right, we can make a septuplet swing or quintuplet swing pattern, which looks like this, right? So let's put this on, right, something that we actually have sound on. We'll put it on the 5/1, I guess. But that's actually like a 20 divisions, as you can probably see. All right, so if we play this and say we put this on our snare and this on our kick, right, and this on our kick, this on our snare, and all these on our hats, then check it, we'll have like this nice swing rhythm. Right, and it's going to be kind of this like choppy, weird swing, right? It's not going to feel quite natural, but it's going to sound cool. Right, and so what your ear is normally expecting in these circumstances, right, would be this, either this normal triplet swing, in which case this would be here and this would be here, right, and this would be here, this would be here, right, and it sound like this. Right, so that's normal, but this is a little bit off, and it's again this quintuplet swing, and it's got kind of this like clunky feel. Right. So that's one how you would make this kind of thing in the first place. I just made one that has all 32 divisions for you. And I put it on this drum rack, and so you can just populate the drum cells with what you want and turn the notes off, right, like we did before. So that's usually what I do. But also if you want to make grooves out of this, that's the other option, right? So I just showed you this, like, this would actually, especially if you got rid of these guys entirely, right? Just delete these. Right, so the way you can make grooves is, and I believe it doesn't matter if like all these have different MIDI notes, but I always put them onto one MIDI note. Another thing about this is you can take this opportunity to add velocity to the groove, right? So say we want, our downbeats to hit nice and hard, right? And all of our on beats to hit nice and hard, right? We would do velocity like this, right? Now, to make a groove out of this, you just drag it onto the groove pool, right? And bam, you have this. So I would call this quintuplet, right? Down accent, right? And the reason I call it down accent is because actually a lot of swing and like classic, like, swing music type swing actually accents the upbeat, right? So if we grab all of these guys and make them the strong accents and grab all these strong accents and make them the weak accents, right? This is actually how you normally find swing, and so it gives a different feel. And so we can just show you what that looks like right now. And you can just save these, and it'll just save to your groove pool. And just to show you guys the difference, so kick, snare, kick, snare. Let's also put this as a snare because it kind of sounds cooler, right? And so just to show you guys, this already has the timing, but let's just say that this all was quantized on eighth notes, right? And then we apply this up accent, right? We've got this quintuplet grid that we had before. Let me pull up these velocities or put them somewhere in the middle or whatever, just so you can see that. But make sure that you have your velocity all the way up here, right? And this is on an eighth note grid. So you're either going to have to hit quantize, or it's going to, have them be quantized in advance before you apply the groove. Otherwise, it's going to not actually give you the notes that you want because it's going to incrementally shift them. Right. So if I apply this groove, right, it switches over. You can see that the upbeats, right, not these downbeats, but the upbeats are the ones that got accented, right? If we select all, we can pull these up, right? But say we have this groove, right? Let's put kick, right? Snare, right, kick, snare, right? And let's actually put the snare here too, because it kind of sounds better. But then we've got this. Right, and it's got that nice strong upbeat accent. Right, say we can take timing off. Let me just show you what I meant before. So if I apply the groove of this downbeat accent, watch what it does to the timing. Right, it's already in a quintuplet swing, but it just shifted over to the right more. So I'm going to undo that. If we hit quantize, what it's going to do is it's going to quantize to the eighth notes first, and then it'll apply this grid again. So it's not going to incrementally shift it over to the right again, right? So now we still have the same timing, right? But you can see what happened with the velocity, right? So the velocity got more towards what we wanted, right? Cool. Okay, so we've got this groove now, so check this. This is now with the downbeat accented, and let me pull these up. Right, and here's another really quick trick, but if you copy this, right, I can undo, and go back to where we had that before, and I can still paste this other one. So now we can A-B these two grooves. We've got the downbeat accent, which sounds like this. We've got this upbeat accent, which sounds like this. Right, so very different grooves. So yeah, that's how you can make polyrhythmic grooves with this. I'm going to give you this whole rack and as well as this MIDI file individually. but I'll give you this whole rack so that you can make polyrhythms really quickly just by throwing samples or 128s or what have you on the deviations, or the divisions rather, that you want, like the number of division polyrhythm that you want. Right, so you can just make them really easily. But also that's the difference between polyrhythm and polymeter. Don't forget this is polymeter. Right, which now you should be pretty clear why that's different than polyrhythms. Both of them are useful tools. They're both really, really cool. This gives you kind of like interesting wonky rhythms. This gives you not actually interesting rhythms as often as it will give you constantly shifting pattern combinations, which is also really interesting and useful trick to use. All right, hope that was informative, guys. Check the description for this download, and if you come up with any awesome applications, comment about them, or if you have questions about it, just leave it in the comments below and I'll help you out. Take care. It's been awesome. Thanks so much for watching these videos. I love making them and I love helping you guys. So I'll keep at it. Just keep coming back.